Hello. I certainly didn't expect to see you boys this afternoon.
We had to cycle over to see you, Mrs. Parker. We've brought you an exciting piece of news.
Have you indeed? Well, come along inside. I expect it's hot tea and cakes that you are needing. You boys shouldn't be allowed on the moors on such an afternoon as this. The fog's getting thicker every minute. Sit down at once, and I'll pour out some tea. Now, what's this exciting piece of news?
2 convicts escaped from the prison this afternoon. Yes, according to what we heard, they got away from prison about half an hour ago, when the mist came on so suddenly. They are believed to be somewhere on the moors, and, of course, everyone in the village— Why, Mrs. Parker, what's up? I say, I believe we've frightened you. There's nothing to be scared about, you know. The convicts aren't likely to come this way, and anyhow, Alec and I are with you.
That's all right. I'm not afraid, but I was thinking of you boys. You'll have to start back for the village as soon as you've had a cup of tea. Your mother will be worried out of her life if you're not home before long. Wait one moment, and I'll bring 2 more cups.
Now, who would have thought Mrs. Parker would be nervous of a convict? She's lived alone in this cottage for the last 6 months and has never shown the slightest fear of tramps, or of anything else for that matter, yet, just now, she looked as frightened as a rabbit. Ah, well, as my dad says, where women are concerned, the unexpected always happens. Hello, who can this be? Let's hope it's not one of the convicts. I wonder if I'd better open the door, or call Mrs. Parker. Open the door, Alec. If it's a convict, we'll be ready for him.
Good evening. I've called to see Mrs. Parker. What be you 2 kids doing here?
Hello, Joe. We're also here to see Mrs. Parker. And, by the way, there's no need for that word, kids. You're not quite 99 yourself yet.
Boys of your age should be kept at home when there be dangerous criminals at large. Do you know there may be a couple of convicts prowling about the house at this moment?
As a matter of fact, I picked this up in case you were one of them.
Why, Joe, what are you doing here on such an evening?
I've just come to ask you a few questions, Mrs. Parker, and seeing I'm helping my uncle, the constable of the village, I'm hoping as you'll be so kind as to answer them.
Well, Joe, I'll do my best. Will you have a cup of tea?
No, thanks. I've no time for tea when there be man's work to do.
Somewhere out on those moors there be 2 criminals, ready to murder us all in our beds, if they get the chance.
I shouldn't let that make you nervous, Joe. They'll probably be caught before nightfall.
Nervous? Make me nervous? It takes more than a couple of jailbirds to scare me.
As a matter of fact, I be hoping to catch one of them myself afore long. Then why not do it first, and boast about it afterwards?
Tom, just because you've won a couple of prizes at school, you think you can give yourself airs? Well, let me tell you something. My education may not be so fine as yours, but I've been taking correspondence lessons from a school of detectives, and afore you knows where you are, I'll be
at the
top of the force, see?
Don't be a silly, Joe. You're too much of a gas-bag to make a decent detective.
Oh, am I? That's as may be seen. I tell you I'm going to catch one and maybe both of them convicts, and afore I go there's 1 or 2 questions I'd like to ask Mrs. Parker. I've been hearing things down in the village, and what I wants to know is, why should a lady like her want to live alone in a place like this? Why should she live as near to the prison as she possibly can, and never encourage any visitors to see her, unless it be you 2 boys, maybe?
Wait a minute, Tom. Why are you asking these questions?
'Cause I've been hearing things down in the village, that's why. Mind you, I be making no accusations against you, but when my aunt wanted you to take over one of her boarders last summer, you wouldn't hear of it, nor for any price she offered you. Well, that made people wonder why you always want to be so private-like.
I'd thank the people of the village to mind their own business.
Yes, but that's not all. I've been doing a little detective work round here myself this last half hour, What be a lady like you doing with a Bentley sports car hidden away in an old shed where no one be likely to notice it?
Why, how dare you spy on me like this? You'll be accusing me of hiding the convicts next.
That's as may be. My uncle be the constable, and I want to join the force myself. It's my business to find out things. That's why I be asking questions. Be careful. I've a good mind to knock your block off for this.
Please, Tom, let's not have any fighting. Joe has been reading too many detective stories. I expect that's the cause of the trouble. Now listen, Joe. I want you to leave this house at once. Perhaps you don't realize that you insulted me just now, but I want you to go home before you cause any further unpleasantness. The sports car you saw this afternoon belongs to my nephew, if that is any satisfaction to your curiosity. Now go away, Joe, please. And for goodness sake, stop reading silly detective stories.
Very well, Mrs. Parker. I'll be going. But mind, I warn you, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. You'll get to the bottom of the duck pond if you don't clear out quickly.
I'm afraid he's going to make a great deal of trouble for me.
He'd better not. You know, Mrs. Parker, you've been so good to us fellows that anyone who starts making trouble for you is going to get a nasty tap on the nose. Rather. I say, though, fancy your having a Bentley sports car hidden away in that old shed. Why have you never told us about it?
Because you might have worried me to let you drive it. Come now, hurry up and drink that tea. I want you to go, or your mother will be worried.
No fear, we're not going home yet. We don't like the idea of leaving you here alone.
But you must go, I tell you.
I say, Mrs. Parker, what's up? You seem awfully worried this afternoon.
Oh, heavens! I only wish I could tell you.
Then there is something wrong. Please tell us what it is.
Listen, boys. Ever since I took this cottage, we three have been pals, haven't we? Will you both promise me, on your honor, that you will never repeat what I'm going to tell you?
Why, of course. Certainly, we promise.
Then listen. Somewhere in that prison, a boy is suffering for another's crime. Maybe you heard of the Felton forgery case. Well, Roger Felton is as innocent of that crime as either of you boys. Oh, I've no time to go into details now, but working in the same office with Roger was a scoundrel who pretended to be his friend. This man signed his employer's name on a check, but he covered his tracks so cleverly that when the forgery was discovered, suspicion fell upon Roger. Roger was known to be in money difficulties, and so he was suspected of forging a check. Oh, I can't bear to remember the disgrace and horror of it all. And in the end, Roger was convicted and sentenced to 3 years imprisonment.
You speak as though you knew this boy.
He is my son. My real name is Mrs. Felton.
What? You mean that your son?
Oh, my dear boys, I am trusting you as I have never trusted anyone else in my life. I had but one object when I took this cottage, and that was to help Roger to escape. I have kept the car ready for use ever since I came here. And this afternoon I am praying that my boy may be one of the escaped convicts. If he is, he knows where I am, and he will come here. I have a suit of clothes ready for him, and then...
Then he'll escape in the Bentley. Oh, golly, what a thrill.
Yes, but now you must go. Go, please. And please don't breathe a word of this to anyone.
But, Mrs. Parker, Mrs. Felton, can't we stay and help? We'll do anything in our power if you'll only let us stay.
No, I can't let you do that. You don't realize what it would mean if you were caught helping me in this. You must go quickly.
Too late. There's someone here now. I'll open the door. Quick, get some water.
No, I am all right.
Don't be afraid of us, fellows. Your mother has told us your story, and for her sake we'll do everything in our power to help you escape. Mother, please don't give up now. They're after me, and there's no time to lose if I'm to get away. I must talk to you about our plans for afterwards.
My boy, I'm sorry. Come quickly. You must change at once.
Well, of all the extraordinary adventures, who on earth thought we should be mixed up in a thrill like this? Fancy Mrs. Parker having the nerve to plan all this and then almost fainting at the last minute. Ah, well, as my dad says, where women are concerned, the unexpected always happens. That poor fellow will need a mighty lot of luck, even now, if he's to get away. All the roads are short, we watched. It must be a nerve-wracking job to escape from prison. You never know from one moment to the next when someone is going to pounce on you, and it sounds as though someone has pounced. Here, wait a bit. Don't go to the door. It may be a warder from the prison. Someone is almost sure to come here to make inquiries. All the same, I must open the door. Delay will only make things look suspicious. If it's a warder, we'll have to throw him off the scene somehow, for Mrs. Parker's sake. Where's Mrs. Parker? She's very busy at the moment, trying to find a cure for boys who can't mind their own business. I'll be taking no rudeness from a kid like you, so just tell Mrs. Parker I want to see her. You'll be getting a thick ear if you start worrying Mrs. Parker again. Shall I now? Well, let me tell you, you may find yourselves in a prison cell before tomorrow. I thought there'd be something suspicious-like going on around here, so I just lay low and watched. Well, I saw him come in, so what have you to say about that? Really, Joe, I haven't the least idea what you're talking about. Oh, haven't you? Well, maybe you will have when you find yourselves arrested for helping a convict to escape. I saw him dart in here, I tell you, and I'm going to tell all I know.
Joe, what are you doing here?
I just now saw a convict come in here. Are you going to hand him over, or must I go for help?
You saw a convict come in here? Why, Joe, have you taken leave of your senses? If you saw anyone come in just now, it must have been my nephew, who arrived from London this morning.
Oh, him as owns the sports car, I suppose. Well, that may be, but I haven't heard that convicts' clothes be fashionable just now in London.
Really, Joe, if it were not so utterly ridiculous, I should be angry with you for insulting me. Frank, come here a moment, will you? This young fellow has an idea that he saw a convict enter this house just now.
What's that? A convict in the house? No, young man. I'm quite sure you're making a mistake. Oh, no, I'm not. You be the man I saw come in here a few minutes ago, and you were wearing a convict's suit then. Look here, my lad. If you go about making accusations like that, you'll get yourself into serious trouble. Very well, then. If you be Mrs. Parker's nephew, and not a convict, you won't have no convict's clothes hidden away, will you? That sounds very logical. Well, then, do you mind if I just look into the next room for a moment? Indeed, I do. Ah, of course you do. Your convict's clothes are in that room. Now, look here. I've stood about enough of this nonsense. I think we'd all be well pleased if you'd kindly get out of the house. All right, I'm going. But mind you, I have my bike outside. I'm going straight to my uncle, and I'm going to tell him all that I've seen here. He'll soon send out a description of that car of yours, and you'll find you won't get away so easily after all. You're going to do no such thing. Oh? And who's going to stop me? I am. You may be a bit bigger than I am, but I could down you any day. By the time I am done with you, it will be a doctor that you'll need, not a constable.
Tom! Joe! For goodness sake, stop fighting.
Now, you'd better open that door, if you dare.
Quick, you'll have to get out of the back way.
Too late. There's no time for that. Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt the excitement, but we're looking for an escaped convict. 2 men got away in the mist this afternoon. Fortunately, one has already been caught,
but we're still looking for the other man. Have you, by any chance, noticed any strangers about here? You need look no farther. There be the man you've been searching for. Ah, I thought I recognized him.
No, it's all a mistake, I tell you.
I saw him sneak in here about 10 minutes ago, and if you want proof, his prison clothes be in the next room. I was just going to fetch my uncle, the constable of the village, you know, and these boys tried to stop me. That's why we were fighting when you came in. Indeed, this is a smart bit of work, my lad. Your uncle should be proud of you.
Oh, wait. Please don't take him.
Hush. It's no use. The game's up now. I'll have to take you back at once. I'm sorry, lady, but I'm afraid there's going to be trouble for you over this. Did you know that this man was a convict when he entered the house? Of course she did. She had a sports car hidden in her shed ready to get him away, and what's more, she must have had those clothes waiting for him. Wait till I get you outside tonight. That's enough of that, my lad. This boy is simply doing his duty. Just keep an eye on this fellow for a moment. I'm going to have a look for those prison clothes.
But please, won't you just let me explain? You see,
I'm going to hit you so hard that you won't know what's happened until you wake up in a hospital next week. Stop that! You daren't touch me. I be doing my duty. And if you're not careful, you'll be getting locked up yourself for this. Listen, you're not doing a duty. You're sending an innocent man back to prison. That's what you're doing. You were quite right, my lad. Here are the prison clothes, and I've found this parcel of provisions, which was unmistakably prepared for a long journey. I'm sorry, lady, but this is going to be very serious for you. You were obviously helping this man to escape, and it's my duty to report the matter. Oh, I say, officer, must you do that? I'm sorry, but duty is duty, you know.
oh, it doesn't matter. If my boy goes back to prison, they can do as they like with me.
Come along, my man. We'll be getting back, and I may as well take those clothes with us. Oh, and by the way, I don't think it would be a bad idea if I took you back in that sports car the lady has outside. That car's an important piece of evidence, and I don't want anyone to tamper with it. I have my bike outside, so I think I'll ride up to the prison after you. Maybe I could see the governor and tell him just what happened this evening, seeing as I want to get into the force, maybe. Well, what I mean is that it might help. It's a good idea, but I don't think you'd better ride tonight. All the roads are guarded, and you might have trouble to pass. Of course, I could give you the password, but that's against the regulations. That'd be all right, officer. I already know the password. Regent is the word, I believe. Yes, that's right. But how did you know? Ah, you forget that my uncle be constable in the village. He told me the word, although it be against the regulations. You see, he knows it's safe with me. I'm not the one to let out any secrets. No, my lad, I'm sure of that. You've done me a very good turn this evening, and someday I'm sure you'll be a great man in the force yourself. Good night. Well, I told you I'd catch one of them convicts, didn't I? You thought I hadn't the brains to be a detective? Said I was too much of a gasbag? Well, I've shown you all tonight what I can do. Oh, get out of here if you want to get out alive. He's not going yet. I'm going to thrash him for this.
Tom, please don't fight again tonight. It's no use now.
Mrs. Parker, I can't tell you how sorry we are about this. There's nothing too bad for that sneak Joe after this.
Listen, there goes the car.
I could have howled like a kid when they took your boy away.
Hush. Listen, boys, I've something to tell you. They've not taken my boy away.
What do you mean?
Just this. The convict you saw just now was not Roger.
Not Roger? You mean he was not your son?
I've never seen him before in my life.
But he called you mother.
I know. After you told him that you were willing to help my son escape, He called me mother in the hope that I should not tell the truth. And I thought of Roger, and I just hadn't the heart to turn against the poor fellow.
Then your son didn't escape after all?
Yes, boys, Roger did escape. That's just what's making me so marvelously happy. You see, he was the warder who just now arrested his pal and took him off to freedom in the Bentley.
What? You mean...
Hush, not so loudly. Yes, Roger explained everything to me while we had that minute together in the next room. He was hiding behind a boulder when a warder, who had separated from the others, came quite close to him. By springing on the man and using a little wrestling trick he had learned in his school days, Roger managed to overcome the warder, and then he effected a change of clothes. He immediately made for this cottage, but he very soon realized the situation where Master Joe was concerned. It was a splendid idea of Roger's to take away the Bentley as evidence.
Then by this time they're well on the way to freedom. But, I say, won't it be awkward if they're stopped on the road?
Why, that's just the cream of the joke. Joe never blabs any of his uncle's secrets, but he told Roger the one thing he needed to know. He told him the password that will get him safely to freedom. Now, all I have to do is join him, and we're going to Australia to start all over again.
Mrs. Parker, I can't tell you how glad I am about this.
And I can't tell you how grateful I am to you boys.
Why, I say, you're crying, aren't you? There's nothing to cry about now.
I know, but I'm just crying for happiness.
Well, I am bold. But there, as my dad says, where women are concerned, the unexpected always happens.